The biggest mistake you could make as a buyer isn't asking too many questions. It's asking them too late. If you're buying a home, these are the top 5 questions we get asked over and over and over again. And if you don't know the answers to these questions, it could cost you unnecessary stress, surprise costs, and even potentially cost you to lose the property. Hi, I'm attorney Kishore Kapoor, a residential real estate closing attorney here in the state of Connecticut. And every day I share real life stories from real closings so you can have a smooth and stress-free closing. So here are the top 5 questions we get asked. Question number 1, how much is this actually going to cost? Well, a lot of times buyers prepare for a down payment, but they forget about other expenses. We have closing costs, right? That's the cost to get the loan. You have to make some prepayments, possibly for taxes, definitely for insurance, some prepaid interest. You've got to reimburse the seller for taxes that they've already paid, potentially in some towns, sewer bills. If the property has oil, you've got to reimburse the seller for the oil. This number ends up being a lot higher than most people prepare for because most people only budget for the down payment, right? They only look at the down payment because they figured out, well, the house is going to cost me $300,000. I've got a $275,000 loan and I got a $5,000 deposit. That means I only need $20,000 more. And if that's what they plan for and what you plan for, you're going to be in trouble. The good part, though, is your mortgage company is looking through your financials to make sure that you qualify and you have enough money. But don't stress too much about it, but be sure to plan for it. I tell my clients 2 to 5% of the purchase price is a closing cost idea, right? I always err on the side of safety because I would rather plan 5% and then find out I only need 3 and I have an extra 2% in my pocket to help cover moving costs or buying new furniture or whatever you need to spend once you get into a new house. Question number 2 is, when will I actually get the keys? Well, most people expect after they do the walkthrough that the agent's going to hand them keys. Fortunately, that does not happen. They may give you the keys, but you cannot go into the property until after we sign all the closing documents, right? And the seller needs their money. Now, I don't expect the seller to have the money in their hands. I expect it to be in their attorney's hands. So as long as we can close, get the money sent to the seller, attorney, we should be good. So I tell people, plan that if you want to get keys and access to the house early, schedule an earlier morning closing. You schedule a 4 o'clock closing on a Friday night, there's a possibility that you may not be able to access your new home until Monday morning. Because a lot of attorneys, banks stop doing wires after 5 p.m. And most attorneys on Fridays at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. leave. So if the wire comes in at 8 o'clock, we have no way to confirm that. So you don't get access to that house for the entire weekend. So there's another tip is if you want to buy your house and get to be able to move in quickly, schedule a closing earlier in the day. Schedule a closing with your attorney on a Wednesday. Wednesdays are the best day of the week because we don't have a lot of closings. Everybody wants to close on Friday for some reason. Not for some reason, I get it. It's you want to be able to move over the weekend. Number 4, and this comes up every now and then, how can I walk away from the contract? What are situations that we can? What happens if I lose my job? Right? I sigh because it's a sad situation that does come up at times, but it is a question we get asked. What happens if something after my mortgage company gives my mortgage approval happens? Well, if something happens after your mortgage approval, it depends on what it is. Losing jobs, we typically work something out, but technically after you get mortgage approval, there's nothing we can do to keep your deposit if you want to walk away, or you have to walk away, or you're not approved anymore, right? So the penalty is that you have to turn your buyer turns over the deposit to the seller, and the seller gets to keep the deposit in the event that you cannot close. Number 4 is, what do you do as an attorney, right? Most buyers just assume that the attorney takes care of everything. that the paperwork is going to be explained and everything's going to go smoothly. And I'm sorry to say that doesn't always happen. We've had experiences working with sellers that they weren't explained things when they purchased their property, right? Or we get our buyers who we've explained things to call us back a week later and say, I don't understand that, I don't understand this, which is perfectly fine. But make sure you understand and ask those questions before you sign the documents. We're there to explain the documents to make sure you understand, and so everything goes smoothly. Number 5 is, what type of delays do we typically see? A lot of the delays we see come up related to title issues, lender conditions, and last minute changes, right? So don't make any major purchases. Don't make any major changes in your life if you want to buy your house, because if you make a major change, that could affect your loan. Title issues, right? Title issues cause delays all the time. We need to make sure that you don't have anything that affects your ownership interest in the property. So if you found all this information useful and you don't want to miss one of our new videos that we post daily, be sure to subscribe, because every day of the week we try to post a new video sharing real life situations from real closings so you can have a smooth and stress-free closing. So I have a few lessons I'd like you to take away from this. Lesson number 1 is knowing your cash to close, right? Your cash to close is your closing costs plus your down payment, minus any credits you receive, right? You need to plan for that. That is something that most buyers we see get into trouble because they don't plan for that. The tip I gave you is plan for 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Set it aside and just know that's going to be your closing costs. So you have some extra money set aside. Number 2, don't expect your keys immediately. It takes time, right? You've got to come to the closing, sign all your documents, give me all the money. I need to get all the money from you and the lender, and then I need to send it to the seller. So just realize that it takes time. You may get the keys, but you're not allowed to have access to the house until the seller's attorney confirms that you got the money. Number 3, I'm going to rephrase this one, but understand the terms of your contract, right? What is your contingencies, right? So in most contracts, you have 2. Sometimes you have 3. The 2 are the inspection and the mortgage. You need to have the house inspected and get approved through give your approval. If there's issues with the house, you have the right to walk away, right? The inspection gives you your chance to know the property. And then your mortgage approval date is the date you need to get a mortgage approved, because most people don't have $300,000 to buy a new house, right? They may have 50, they may have 20. They can have as little as, I think it's 6. But they can have some money set aside. So just plan 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Have that set aside so that you're not going to be struggling or stressed when we get closer to closing. Know what your attorney does. Most of you don't know what I do. If you've been watching and following the channel for long enough, I share a lot of what we do, but we solve problems. And a lot of times we're solving problems that you're not aware of or we tell you about, because why add to your stress? You're already going through a stressful process. But that being said, we're also there to help you, right? We're a wealth of knowledge. We're there to support you. Call us with your questions. Don't go to Google. Everyone's going to AI now. Call the attorney that knows what they're doing. Give us a call, ask the questions, feel comfortable about what you're doing. And then number 4 is just stay on top of everything, right? There's going to be a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of documents transferring hands, right? Be sure you keep an open line of communication with your closing team. That means your realtor, your mortgage broker, your attorney, your insurance agent. Your home inspector is part of the closing team, but once we're past inspections, they kind of go away. So if you are buying a home and you have questions, give us a call. We'd rather you ask them now before we get to the closing and you've created a problem unintentionally, because it's easier to fix a problem beforehand than after. Okay? And if you're looking for a great closing attorney, give my office a call. We'll be happy to represent you.